Hello everyone, I am Dr. Shivam Dubey. I am a psychiatrist and founder of Mighty Champions Mental Health Education Program. Today on 22nd of May 2026, we are hosting Mighty Champion Daily Live. My dear friends, Mighty Champion Daily Live is a daily program in which we try to learn the inner skills, the skills that helps us survive in the time of stress or even to live our life. There are 11 of those skills that we try to learn in Mighty Champion Daily Life. And I would like to welcome you guys, and you can also share with your friends and join our program. Today in the Mighty Champion Daily Life, we are inviting a guest, Dr. Charu Arora. She's a cardiologist. She's based in India, and she's coming to us with her unique journey, and we will learn from her experiences, from her wisdom. Welcome, Dr. Charu Arora.
Thank you, Dr. Shivam. I'm good. How are you?
Very good, very good. So, Dr. Charu, when we start Mighty Champion Daily Live meeting, we try to set an intention first. In every meeting, every day when we run this show, we try to set the intention for the day. So I would like to welcome all of you to set the intention. So please repeat after me. So we'll close our eyes and I'll say, and then you guys can repeat after me. I will be more positive today.
I will be more positive today.
I will practice kindness today.
I will practice kindness today.
I will be forgiving today.
I will be forgiving today.
And I will try to become an observer and watch myself.
I will try to become an observer and watch myself.
And I wish that the whole world become more positive, peaceful today.
I wish the whole world becomes more positive and more peaceful today.
And with that intention, we start our session and our talk with Dr. Charu. Right? Okay. You won't believe, Dr. Charu, we have people from Dubai, obviously from USA, from Bangalore, from Indianapolis, from Philippines, from Pakistan, from all over. You're so famous.
Nothing like
So,
that. I'm glad to be here. Thank you
yes.
for
So,
inviting me.
yeah, let's start with your journey. So, could you tell us what happened that you became a cardiologist?
Well, right from the childhood, I wanted to be a doctor. I looked at medicine as something which is very kind and helps to heal others' pain. So, very early childhood, this inspired me to become a doctor. When I was pursuing that, I realized that I really like to study about the heart, about how the heart functions. It's one of the most vital organs in the body. And then it just happened, and I ended up becoming a clinical, non-interventional cardiologist. But I would say that's only part of the journey. A lot of things happened after that as well, and we'll get to them maybe through the podcast.
Hmm.
After that, I actually went to business school because I wanted to enter health technology as a
Oh,
domain. So in 2014, I went to one of the premier business schools in India called Indian School of Business, ISB Hyderabad. And
wow.
since 2015, I've been working in health technology, building products for doctors as well
Hmm.
as patients for improving compliances. Have even worked in healthcare AI, worked for a leading radiology AI company called Q.AI, which is an India-based company, but quite global in its presence now.
So, what would you say? What happened that changed the way you see the medicine. Because
So that was, yeah, that's an entirely different story.
mm,
While I was pursuing all of these things, I also suffered. I mean, slowly discovered that I suffered from multiple chronic conditions. And it took me a while to realize that they were serious. They started when I was still in medical school. I was obviously taking a lot of medications because that's what you do. That's what you know as a doctor, and continued those medications. My symptoms kept getting worse. The number of medicines kept increasing. Parallelly, there were also some lows in my life, and I'm talking about this because I also want to talk about the psychosomatic element of disease in maybe the next few minutes, over the next few minutes. But here, I would like to mention that there were a lot of things happening in my life which were affecting my emotional health. Of course, I was not able to correlate any of this at that point. So all of this happened retrospectively. I think the best learnings happened that way. So while I was dealing with all these problems and then new problems were getting diagnosed, I even underwent a surgery, a laparoscopic surgery for a GI condition. And I was told that I should stop taking medications because I'm young. I was about 30 at that time, and I was already taking medications since a decade. So I was asked to stop them because of obviously the risk of potential side effects. And it didn't really go that way because even after my surgery, I had symptoms. So I had to take medication. Um, and this was happening, and then another condition got diagnosed. I took hormonal treatment for that. It didn't suit me. I had plenty of side effects, and that was the point when I really started exploring yoga and breathing as an alternate, very seriously. I mean, I was actually very closed to these practices. I used to look at them as something very unscientific and something only meant for making the body look in a certain way, more flexible, maybe slim, etc. So I didn't give any legitimate weightage to these practices. But when I was left with no choice, when my health was in a condition where modern medicine did not offer me any solution that was actually working, that was the time when I opened my mind, and out of desperation, I tried yoga and breathing. And I already started feeling a difference. At that point, when my second condition was diagnosed, was actually third, fourth, but second big condition was diagnosed, I decided to go to a yoga school. I decided to learn it more deeply. I decided to alter my lifestyle. So I went to live in a yoga school in a very sattvic lifestyle where we were eating sattvic food, we were following a very strict routine. So our circadian rhythm was in sync with the nature. We were doing a lot of breath work, a lot of pranayam, yoga asanas with breath coordination, mindfulness, meditation, chanting. Now I can say how this was helping me, but at that point, it was just an eye opener. It was my first learning was that uh, modern medicine is great and it has offered us things that we could not even imagine. But at the same time, if we want to believe that it is complete or comprehensive, probably not. Because what I found relief in is not something which is part of normal conventional modern medicine. So I'll take a pause here.
yeah, a lot of things you talked about. Uh, Two things that I would like to talk about. First is that stress is inevitable. We don't know what will happen in our lives. When we are born, after that we grow up, what will happen with our parents, with the society. And as we are talking globally, I mean, currently in Iran, there is a war. So imagine the kids living there. They didn't do nothing, whatever. They just born in this where. So the stress could come from anywhere. So it's
Yep.
very important. It has become that we prepare from the beginning or wherever we are in our stage, that we prepare. And what do I mean by prepare is that we empower ourselves with the skills that we might need, or we practice those skills, like we practice skills or for our physical health, but for our mind also we need to practice skills. Second thing, like you said, that in last 100 years or something, 50 years I would say, the yoga was not included in our education system, although this is part of our culture and ancient wisdom, but it wasn't included in our curriculum. And we started in even Indians started seeing yoga as just a fitness cha-cha-cha exercise, right? Like in America, downward dog and all that. They So yoga was started to be considered as a fitness exercise, but it was much more than that. But you highlighted a very good point, that that you understood that yoga is something more than just fitness exercise. And the third thing I want to share, reflect here, self-reflection. I think you practiced self-reflection. After going through all that, you practice self-reflection, you develop the insight, and then you figure out what is right and what is wrong, and you find your way. So it's very important that we all sit in a day and do some self-reflection to so that we can find our strengths, our weaknesses, and then improve on that. So doctor, your journey, you know as a doctor, you wanted to treat people, help people, but you started having problems in your own body, right? And actually, it happened with me also. I also got diabetes around age 28. When I was in India, I was never saw a doctor, and I came to America, and within 6 months, I got chickenpox, and then next thing I know that I have diabetes. So I can relate to your journey when when the doctor himself start becoming sick, then the whole thing changes. It's a very could be very traumatic too, you know. So I can relate with your how you were feeling at that time, you know, when your body
Yeah.
is up, like you
Yeah.
really feel really stressed.
Yeah.
So who introduced you to yoga?
Uh, Nobody in particular. I think it was, I read a book called Inner Engineering. It's by
Oh, you did?
Sadhguru.
Okay.
I did the
Yes.
inner engineering course also later on as a part of my spiritual journey, you can say.
Yes.
But
Yes.
yes, the book definitely opened my mind, and I think it is
Mm.
meant to do that. The way our analytical left brain thinks,
Yes.
I think it is targeted at people like us, and it really, for the first time in life, made me realize that oh, there is a lot more to it than I thought. Let's explore. But it was only after I was after I started feeling that I need to do something more for my health, that I started practicing it more seriously.
Yes. Yes. So, doctor, as a psychiatrist, I have been working on stress and what stress does to your body. So what do you think about how yoga and pranayama and breathing and breath work, how what do you think, how could it help somebody with having chronic stress from diseases?
So before I answer that, I would just also like to add how I learned this.
Okay.
Uh, so when I started practicing pranayam and yoga, and I started seeing the effects on my health, I started seeing that everything was starting to get better, my symptoms, my reports. That is when I started to want to question, the left brain again, questioning why this is happening, how this is happening. I don't know this could be possible. And when I read about how this was happening, it exactly correlated with what we have learned as doctors. It was the same language, the same frameworks, the same kind of research, the same kind of randomized control trials, peer-reviewed studies. The mechanisms are actually relatively simple to understand. One major way in which breathing or pranayam helps in stress management and hence in the downstream effects on physical health as well is through the vagus nerve. For our audience, let me just explain. The vagus nerve is one of the largest cranial nerves. It starts in the brain but goes to many parts of the body. It comes from the neck, goes to our heart, our digestive system, and it actually becomes like a sort of a messenger between the brain and the body because of its network and the way it functions. So when we practice deep breathing, or when we specifically practice even a prolonged exhalation, it activates the vagus nerve and it shifts the autonomic balance more to the parasympathetic side. So again, for the audience, sympathetic and parasympathetic are two parts of the autonomic or the involuntary nervous system. The sympathetic is what we are more familiar with because we are in that state more often than not. Not that we should be, but our today's lifestyle is such that we are almost constantly in the sympathetic state. This is the state uh, which is defining the fight or the flight response. And like you said, stress is there everywhere. And when we were still evolving, when human Homo sapiens was living in the forest, we needed to have a very active fight or flight response. Otherwise, we would be attacked by a wild animal. Now that's not true. We don't live in the forest, but the body, every stressor of day-to-day life, be it an office deadline, or be it a fight with somebody, or some argument, everything feels like a predator waiting to attack us. So we are always in that
Yeah,
sympathetic
actually, I would like
mode.
to share what happened the other
Yes,
day. I woke up and I was having my son, who is 9 year old. I was making him ready for the school, and I was telling him, "Krish, rush, rush! We're gonna miss the bus and all that." And you know what? He paused and he said, "Daddy, why are you rushing me?" And I was like, "What?" He said, "Daddy, why we rush?" You know. So we have kind of created that we love fast, fast. Everything has to be fast, quick, and that
exactly.
that goes against. If once in a while that is done is fine, but chronically,
Correct.
if you're doing it, that
Exactly.
you are keeping your sympathetic system active all day,
All
and
that.
which also
Correct.
increases cortisol in our body. So
Exactly.
chronic cortisol
Exactly.
elevation.
Great that you brought up the cortisol bit, right? Because even that is involved in the way breathing or pranayam helps in stress management. So one is obviously the vagus nerve activating the parasympathetic response and taking the body from a fight and flight to a rest and digest mode where the functions, the physiology can happen optimally. Plus, it has also been shown in clinical studies that these yoga and pranayam practices reduce cortisol over the long term, even the medium term. And we know cortisol is involved in, it's just as indicator of stress, but it is also involved in many other metabolic diseases because it increases, insulin resistance and many other things which lead to physical diseases. So, yeah, there are many ways in which pranayam helps, but I would like to call out vagus nerve and cortisol for sure.
Great. So, doctor, a lot of patients, they take medication and follow medical advice, but it's still sometimes they have chronic disease. They still feel tired, anxious, inflamed, or unwell, with the chronic diseases. Why does that happen? Why our medical system is not able to take care of everything, as a person?
I think one one of the reasons is that uh, because we have made a lot of advances in diagnostics, I think there is an over dependence on just reading reports. Very often, now that I practice integrative medicine, very often I come across patients who tell me that my doctor, and these are the patients of difficult to treat diseases like autoimmune conditions or metabolic conditions like diabetes, hypertension. The patients tell me that my doctor sees my reports and prescribes the medicines, and they are doing a great job at that. But there are so many things which are not being heard. Things like stress levels, things like circadian rhythm, routine, sleep regulation, the nutrition, these are things which have unfortunately, because of the design, system design, have unfortunately taken a backseat. And it's not to put the blame on doctors. It's just the way the system is designed. We don't have time as doctors, we don't have time to look at all these nuances, understand the stress levels, what is causing the stress, how is the patient sleeping, are they eating at the same time every day? What are they eating? Who has the time for that, to be honest? And I think that part is very basic. That is actually the whole basics, the basic neurobiology of the system, which defines other disease and the way disease manifests and progresses. But that part is often overlooked. And
Wow.
I think that,
I
and I think
I
that creates the space for integrative medicine.
I think doctors, there's a big knowledge gap. In our medical school or residency, we are not taught about lifestyle medicine. I think we should
Exactly.
definitely have like a maybe some curriculum for this kind of knowledge gap that in medical school also. Wow.
Exactly, because all these things, like your lifestyle, your routine, your stress levels, your sleep, all of these define your cortisol levels, your sympathetic overdrive. Less sleep will directly increase your cortisol, increase your insulin resistance, put you in the sympathetic overdrive again. And even, there are also there's also evidence to prove that all these stressors help. I mean, they damage the gut microbiome and cause a lot of gut dysbiosis. So it's not that these factors are just lifestyle factors, right? They are lifestyle factors, but they have a real impact on the disease progression, which is why ignoring these is not helping us manage, the epidemic of metabolic and autoimmune diseases.
Yes, yes. So, doctor, what did yoga, and like you talked about yoga, breath work, and what do you think the yoga, pranayama, and the breath work teach you about the body that traditional medicine training did not, fully emphasize? What is that thing that you found different
There
or
are many
extra?
things, to be honest. Yeah, there are many things, to be honest. But I think what the biggest takeaway for me was that the body has its own way to self-regulate itself. What we need is just to provide it a conducive environment. We need to
Yes.
provide the environment in which the body thrives. We need to let the circadian rhythm be in sync with nature, get up around sunrise, stop our activities after sunset. Uh, you know, and the body has its ways of giving us feedback also that things are not right. We need to be aware enough to listen to those signals. If we are feeling palpitations,
Self-awareness, right?
self-awareness. If we are feeling palpitations,
Mm.
then that means the heart rate is high. We are probably anxious. Some emotional outburst is happening. If we just become aware of this and take a deep breath, we will notice the change. We'll notice the heart rate slowing down, the respiratory rate slowing down, the breathing becoming slower and deeper. And it's so simple to do. And I think because breath is simple, it is often overlooked as something which is not impactful. But that's the
Yeah.
beauty of it. So yeah, body has a lot of self-awareness and self-regulation.
So, doctor, actually, I was also thinking about our medicine and the education that we get in our medical school. I think in medical school, we look at the body just as body, you know, you know.
Yeah.
But there are other layers of it. Like, in
Yes.
ancient wisdom, we divide the body into 5 layers, you know.
5 layers, exactly.
Uh, the
Yes.
first layer is Anamaya Kosha, which is
Annamaya
your food
Kosha.
body. So in
Yes.
medical school, we get
That's
all
all.
the knowledge of Anamaya Kosha, the food
Yes.
body, our main
Yes.
body. Then
Yes.
the second layer is the Pranamaya Kosha, which is
Pranamaya Kosha.
breath, your breath.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
in medical school, we don't get much education on the Pranamaya
Yes.
Kosha, which is the breathing system, like how our breathing affects our autonomic nervous system. And the just by changing the breath, you can change the signaling to your body, like vagus
Yes.
nervous activation, parasympathetic system, and a lot of other things. So that layer is not much taught. Then the third layer in our ancient wisdom is our Manomaya Kosha.
Manomaya Kosha.
That layer is also only taught to psychiatrists or psychologists, right?
Yes.
Normal
You have
medical
learned.
school,
You have studied that.
yeah,
Yes.
but normal medical school doctor is not taught
Hardly.
about
Yeah.
Manomaya. And then there
Correct.
is more koshas in intellect.
Gyanmaya Kosha.
And
And
then,
then Anandamaya Kosha.
so the education in medical school we get is focused on the Anamaya Kosha.
And
I think that is where it has a limitation, traditional medicine.
absolutely.
They don't go beyond
Agreed.
that. And what you are doing right
Correct.
now is that you are integrating all those layers. You have learned about the Pranamaya Kosha, so you know about the breath work and what does it do. You have worked on the Manomaya Kosha, so you are becoming a complete holistic doctor by providing these services to your patient, in which you not only take care of their body but also their breath and their mind.
Well, I'm just trying to apply some learnings that I have picked in my own journey, and I feel responsible of giving it back. I feel that as a doctor, if I had to struggle so much to understand that there are these solutions, it is think about patients who are not doctors, right? It's so difficult for them. So I feel responsible to educate the world, make them more aware about all these different aspects of health.
Yes, yes. So, doctor, let's go a little bit more into specifics. Like for a patient with diabetes or high blood pressure, heart disease, anxiety, or chronic stress, how can breath, movement, sleep, food, and routine support the medical treatment, like you mentioned earlier?
Yes. So this reminds me that, when we were medical students, and I am a very big fan of the textbook Harrison, textbook of internal medicine. I remember that in all of these conditions that you have mentioned, right? Diabetes, hypertension, there was always a section on lifestyle intervention and stress, which was
Oh.
it was the smallest segment, right? Hardly anybody would actually even talk about it during the actual clinical posting. But yes, great that you bring this point up because these are really, really important. Just to make it easy to understand, I'll give an analogy. It's like if we are standing on the floor, right? If we are standing somewhere, and we have diabetes or hypertension, the medicines that we are taking, they make sure that we stay on the same floor. We don't fall further to the floor below. But the lifestyle interventions do the job of taking you, it's like a staircase, taking you to a slowly to a higher floor. I'll explain how, right? The medicines are very, very important. They are needed to keep your HbA1c or your blood pressure or blood sugars in control. But equally important is to also work on the underlying mechanisms in the body which are leading to these deranged biomarkers in the first place, right? And those underlying causes are inflammation or sympathetic overactiveness or over response or chronic stress, right? These are the root causes. Unless these are treated, it is going to be very difficult especially we see in some patients, despite maximum medication, their diabetes is just not coming under control. We label it as poorly controlled diabetes or uncontrolled hypertension. These are legit diagnoses. Why does that happen? Because we are not really looking beyond, we are not looking at the root causes of all of these, which are rather in some way manifestations. So when we get into breath work, when we get into a sleep regulation or a very strict routine, or for example, in hormonal conditions like PCOS, we avoid processed food. In autoimmune condition, also we should avoid, processed food, gluten, lactose. A lot of things are now coming up with modern research. All of these are part of lifestyle. And speaking specifically about breath work, because nutrition is not really my area, but breathwork is definitely important to again bring you back in that bioregulated mode or bring you back into the rest and digest mode so that your body can fight with the disease better. For example, there are various pranayams which directly help in immunomodulation, right? They help in improving immunity. They directly affect a lot of inflammatory markers. So they reduce inflammation. All the cytokines, the TNF alpha, interleukins, they are shown to be reduced with chronic or regular pranayam practice. Uh, so all of this becomes very important. Even in long-term meditators, there has been evidence to show gene regulation or epigenetics, getting affected. Even the telomere length gets affected. So longevity is also, this is all, peer-reviewed
Doctor, can
research.
you explain what is epigenetics to our audience
Yes,
listening
yes, sure.
a little bit?
So more and more research, yes. So more and more research is now showing us that uh, there are two parts to there are two parts which decide how our life or how our health actually progresses. One is the genes that we are born with, that we inherit from our parents and from our forefathers actually. And the other is the epigenetics, which is the effect of the environment that we live in. And what exactly is this environment? This environment is the things that we are talking about. The environment that we are giving to the body is the food that we are giving to the body. It is the stress, whether it's high or it's low, how that is being managed. How is the overall breathing in the body, or what is the general atmosphere in which. So everything else apart from genes, everything, whether you are exercising, whether you are mobile, or whether you are sedentary, whether you are smoking, everything is epigenetics. So lifestyle is actually epigenetics. And more research is proving that previously we used to believe that genes that we inherit play the dominant part in how we, live our lives or how many diseases we get and how they progress. But latest research shows more and more involvement of the epigenetics. In fact, some studies have said that epigenetics is entirely responsible for everything that goes on in our body, not our genes. So all the lifestyle factors, all the breathing, all the nutrition, the circadian rhythm, the sleep, all of this is epigenetics. And unless we control that, we will find it very hard to control, these metabolic diseases.
So, they say that you are the maker of your destiny. So you may be born with whatever genes from your ancestral, pool of genes you have. When you're born with this body, decided by the DNA. But when you grow up, you have the power that you can change your destiny and decide your destiny. So whatever epigenetics, environment you are giving to your body, what food you are eating, how you exercise, so you can, even if you're predisposed to certain disease. I think I was predisposed to diabetes. That's why I got to diabetes so early. So that was in my destiny. But then if I work on it, try to nurture it, give my body, you know, good nutrition and exercise, sleeping, and all those things, and my mental health, I can manage it better.
Absolutely.
So, what was, I would like to know from your journey, it seemed like you had a moment when you felt like, wow, I got it. Did you, did you, like almost like enlightenment, kind of. And I can see that on your face, actually, you know, I
Probably
have,
what you
because
can
see,
see on my face is the setting sun in India.
No, I'm telling you, because see, I'm a psychiatrist. I see lot of patients all day, and I have been doing it for last 15 years. I can see that your face has that calmness and that glow that is coming from somebody who has learned something, you know. So what is that
Thank
moment
you.
that you felt that way? That, oh, I
Thanks.
got I
Yeah.
got it.
Thanks for the compliment.
Hmm.
Enlightenment, I think, is a very, very big word, and I believe we are too far from it. I am definitely.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yes, there were moments when I felt elated, when I felt like, wow.
Yes,
And to be
yes.
honest, there have been multiple such moments. But the crux of all those moments is whenever, whatever I am learning new, whether it is about the breathing, about the pranayam, or about, like Swara yoga is a type of yoga or pranayam which tells about the connection of the alternate nostrils with the hemispheres, the right and left hemispheres connecting with the right and left nostril. This is one example. But whenever I read about any of these things which come from our ancient wisdom, which I mentioned in our scriptures and have been passed down from generations over centuries, when I read research papers, which basically are testing these practices on the frameworks of modern science, modern medicine, and when I see that the results are satisfactory as per the modern medicine definitions, like the terms like we are using, cortisol, heart rate variability, this and that, those are my aha moments, because I
Oh,
believe, okay, fine. Our ancestors already knew this, and now the modern world also can accept it because it is passing their test. So those are the
wow.
moments that I love the most.
Okay. Great, great. Yes, I mean, definitely, when we see things in modern medicine now, is actually there are a lot of evidence coming out that how the yoga and breath work, and is helping.
Meditation.
Yes,
Yeah.
meditation is helping chronic disease and mental health. Actually, what happened is that when I became a psychiatrist and I was prescribing medications. I prescribe medications all the time, to the patients. So I used to, understand the concept, how a medication works in a patient, how, what does it do that patient starts feeling better, depression gone and all that. At that time, I was working on this chemical concept that our body is like a chemical factory, you know, like imagine if you drink alcohol, it will change your mind, right? If you smoke weed or cocaine, it will change your mind right away. So what does that mean? That chemicals in our brain can change the mind we perceive. It can even give you hallucinations, right? So whatever we are eating, or has some effect on everything, including our mind, because the brain chemicals are manifesting changing the mind. And then I also started to understand that chemicals material is changing the mind, but can the mind change the material? What chemicals we take changes the way we think, and elated or sad. For the alcohol, you can feel all kinds of emotions, right? But is it possible that the mind, the way we think, can change the material, the brain chemicals? So is it possible that if we think positive, kind, forgiving, loving, if we have those emotions, that kind of mind we have, will that change the chemicals in my brain, which later on, from hypothalamus pituitary axis, which controls the whole endocrine system of the body, then that then influences that body, and bring the body in regulation. So my conceptualization was that if we have our mind, which is more loving, kind, forgiving, and away from greed, jealousy, anger, hatred, if we have those emotions in mind, it could influence your brain chemicals and your chronic diseases also, the whole system in
Absolutely.
your body. And I call it chemical harmony. Yeah, I went too far and said that chemical harmony is nothing but love.
That's so true.
Chemical
And
harmony
that's
is love.
also absolutely. And the neuromodulation via the hypothalamic pituitary axis is also one of the ways in which breathing, pranayam, yoga also helps in that, harmony, achieving that harmony in the mind as well as the body. So, because it
Yes,
influences all the hormones that are released, and hence it influences the physiology of all the organ systems.
yes. So, doctor, what do you think about a lot of try to practice, the yoga, you know, and all meditation, diet changes, breath work, but they stop after a few days. So why is consistency so difficult with people these days? And how can a patient build a realistic daily routine?
That's a very important point, Dr. Shivam, because I think most people, even listening to this podcast, will feel that, yeah, we already know most of these things, but how do we practice actually in a regular way, right? That's the challenge. And that's a very legit challenge because whenever we try to adopt something, uh, it could be any new habit like going to the gym or practicing yoga or trying to sleep at a certain time. It is the brain might perceive it as a threat if it is a lot of new, if it brings in a lot of new changes. So, in order to keep the motivation, it becomes very difficult because just the idea of adding so many things to your routine, that becomes a stressor in itself. And then the motivation becomes very hard to follow through, right? It will stay for a day or two and then slowly it will gradually disappear. So consistency is definitely hard, but what I recommend to my patients or students, and even something that I have implemented in my life, is make small changes and focus more on the consistency rather than on doing a lot of things. For example, when I work with patients and I tell them about I make like a list of things they have to do, right? You have to do these many things for your sleep, these many things for your circadian rhythm, these many pranayams, these many relaxing yoga asanas, or whatever type of yogas. But I also give them a progression chart. In the first 2 weeks, do only 2 or 3 things. Very small, 5 or 10 minute worth things. For example, do 5 minute Anulom Vilom in the morning and 5 minute in the evening before going to bed. Okay. And make sure that after waking up in the morning, within 30 minutes, you go and expose yourself to sun for 15 minutes so that your melatonin gets suppressed and you get in that active day routine. So do this for two weeks, only these two things. And then in the third week, I will add two more things. So consistency is easier to maintain when the delta or the number of new things that we are trying to adopt are very small. I always tell my yoga students that don't make it a blocker in your mind that you have to do a yoga practice for 1 hour or 60 minutes or even 45 minutes. Because what will happen is, unless you have that block of time available, it will not happen. You will not do the practice. Make make a rule that even if you have 10-15 minutes, you will practice. That will help in consistency. And you know what happens when you do this for 3 weeks? Research says 21 days. When you do something consistently for 21 days, it becomes a habit. How do you know it's a habit? When you don't do it, the body starts feeling that something is missing, right? So that will pull your motivation back and make you do it again. So pick up fewer
Yes,
things, do them consistently.
yes. So, doctor, I would really like you to share with our audience if they want to contact you or join you for yoga or other things, how can they contact you, and what services you are providing to people these days?
So one is LinkedIn, and then my website is about to go live next month. It's drcharuarora.com. What I do is I try to first do a consultation with a patient to understand what they are going through, what are their challenges with respect to the condition that they are dealing, what how many medications they are on. And I also try to understand how their sleep is, how their stress levels are, whatever they are willing to share, because it is some part of it is part of personal life as well. And then I come up with a detailed personalized protocol for them, which will tell them what are the things to be done and in what sequence, like I was just sharing. If they need support with respect to classes, as to make sure that they are doing the techniques properly, I either do the classes myself or I have a team of teachers who work closely with me, so they can help you learn these practices as well as to how to practice anulom vilom in the right way, how to what basically to not do, because many lot of patients or most patients have some contraindications, right? So, for example, if you are hypertensive, you should not practice Kapalbhati or Bhastrika because that will again increase the sympathetic and increase your blood pressure. So, these are the things which normally yoga teachers fail to understand because, again, it's not really in their purview, but patients can suffer because of it. So, my job is to provide a medically supervised biomarker tracked and safe yoga practice, predominantly pranayam, because everybody can do pranayam. There are no physical limitations to it. Most of the patients I have worked with are above middle age because metabolic diseases. And they used to tell me that we can't do asanas, right? So my practice not naturally went deeper, and my learning also went deeper into the breath or pranayam.
Everybody, please find Dr. Charu Arora's LinkedIn page and try to connect with her. And if you need any consultation with us, you can actually contact us, and we can connect you with Dr. Arora. Guys, I'm really feeling really blessed to have the company of Dr. Arora today, and the journey that she has shared is very, very inspiring and life changing, and makes us actually learn something called self reflection. Should definitely consider self reflection. And this is one of the skill that we teach in Mighty Champions. Guys, if you have not joined the Mighty Champions, I would encourage you to join Mighty Champions program. In the Mighty Champions program, we are teaching 11 inner skills, which we have found that in the research, if you teach these 11 skills to the humans, they will have chances of having less mental health problems. This is very basic neuroscience foundation knowledge that everybody should get. And we are on a mission as Mighty Champions to increase the literacy of mental well-being for humans. And that's why we created this curriculum for inner education. You can also do an assessment for yourself if you want on our website. It's www.mightychampions.org. And my dear friends, for helping the people learn these inner skills, we are running a daily live show, which is Mighty Champions Daily Live. And today we had a special guest, and every single day we host the show where we set the intention, we do some yoga, pranayama, breathing, and then we talk about neuroscience, our our modules, the curriculum. We focus on that, and then we practice positivity, and then we have question answers. So I would like to open the floor for question answers from anybody. If you have any question answers, please raise your hand and unmute yourself, and please ask questions. Yes, Srisha.
Yes, I would actually also first start with, telling Dr. Arora what a powerful insights you shared. It was, and more so, it was powerful because we can see it's your lived experience. You're not parroting something that you heard from somebody. You've experienced it, you've known the transformation, you know the power of these interventions, and we can sense your passion that you want your patients to heal deeply. So thank you for that. And the question I have is, how do you think we can bring about a more systemic change? I mean, we are all, making our personal efforts, but you've been to management school, you've been to medical school. How do you think we can bring about a more systemic change?
Thank you for your kind words, Srisha. Systemic change is something that I have been thinking about a lot because it really bothers me as a doctor that we are not offering these interventions to our patients in a at a mass level. Only individuals like are trying to do some work in small pockets. So I have been trying to have conversations with different types of stakeholders in the healthcare ecosystem, uh, but there's a lot of resistance because, and I'm moving towards the business side of my experience now that the incentives of these organizations or the stakeholders are not really aligned to the best of, best interest of patients, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is just keep working consistently in this direction. Whatever small efforts we can make, we should make that. We should try to spread awareness, try to educate more and more doctors as well as patients about these practices. And I think in India, there is some government push happening, which is a very bright and positive, uh, movement where integration of Ayurveda, yoga, and other alternate medicines are starting to happen, at least in the government institutes. Most of the AIMS now has a department of yoga in India. PGI Chandigarh also has that. Most of the
Yeah.
colleges, medical colleges in Delhi that I know of, they are also doing yoga. So I think that change is happening, but it will
Yeah.
take a long time for it to happen, in a uniform way.
Yeah, I agree. But it's heartening to see at least individuals really speak up and come out of their comfort zone and show themselves. Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
my pleasure.
Mr. Dinesh, uh, I think we have a question from Dinesh ji.
Thank you, Shivam, and thank you, Srisha, and thank you, Dr. Charu Arora. Lovely, lovely conversation. What I liked was very simple language. So I'm going to follow up on Srisha's question. I am also looking at the systemic change. And if we an ounce of prevention is worth a ton of reaction. So in India or in US, around the globe, we can solve this problem so easily if we can somehow, Mighty Champions main mission, if we can educate people and prevent it. So in corporate work, we are, and I want your ideas there. We launched, we start with a leadership team training and the top 20 people, and then we took it to the top 200 people. And then we have a 12-week program where we help them adopt new habits. And we are using the Alcoholic Anonymous old principle. If you people change because they love each other, they bond with each other. So we have used that idea that if the leadership team, instead of having ego conflicts and trying to compete with each other, we notice that when it comes to health, people let go of jealousy and competitiveness go, and they want to support each other. And amazingly, most of the leadership team I'm running into, at least one or two have the heart attacks, one or two would have cancer, because there's humongous amount of pressure. So, what is your advice? What has been your experience? Because we are finding that they are not. Uh, my general, when I work with communities, I find success rate is about 50%. But when we work with organization, we find success rate is even 10%, 20%. They're not responding. So I want your insights. If you have worked with any leadership teams and what possibly can work there to help them adopt new habits for 12 weeks.
Thank you, Dinesh. I think what is not working is that the more senior you are in a corporate world, the more pressures and responsibilities you have. So
Mhm.
on one side, through all these techniques, you are trying to again, reduce the sympathetic response and do everything good for the body and mind. and your emotional health. But on the other side, majority of your time, you are living under constant pressure of deadlines or responsibilities or conflicts at work. And the problem is that when we sit on the yoga mat and we practice pranayam for half an hour, it is great. But what is really needed is also to take that mindset throughout the day, your thought management in every situation that you are in. Unless you are able to change that, you will not really see long-lasting benefits. So I'll come back to what we were talking of in the beginning, or also while Dr. Shivam was speaking of mighty champions about self-reflection. Reflection is basically, we have not really talked about it in this session today, but reflection is basically how did I behave, feel, or react in a situation? Did I do the same old thing that I have been doing for decades? Did I react? Did I feel anxious? Or did I feel insecure, jealous? Or am I more content? Am I becoming slowly more content with who I am? Am I balancing my ambition and my health and my rest? Those are the kind of things that have to be ingrained and become a part of your daily activity or daily routine. Only then, especially people at such senior corporate levels can see the benefits.
Thank you. Good insight. Yeah.
It's a
Yes, thank you, Charu. I think, Dineshji, I think we also talked about it, that if you are not aligned with your energy, your spirit, your values, whatever work you're doing, a lot of time I talk to my patients and they say that they are not satisfied. They don't like their job, those kind of things. Or there's a word called cognitive dissonance. You can check it out. Cognitive dissonance actually causes injury to us and create stress. And if it is present chronically, it can actually do a disease, chronic diseases, cognitive dissonance. So if you are living with cognitive dissonance all day, that you are not aligned, your actions are not aligned with your values, your energy, your spirit, you're always be in a conflict unconsciously, and that will gradually keep damaging you inside, that you won't know. It might come at as a panic attack or someday some other problem or a chronic disease. But this is very important for us to learn to understand who we are, start that journey, start that self-reflection, start the work, begin it to understand ourselves. And everybody is so unique. Learn yourself. And that is why we actually call Mighty Champions, we also call it education of self. And Mighty Champions is a very foundation basic program to initiate that journey. If you have not, it won't take you there, but it will initiate your journeys. It's the beginning place to learn about yourself, education of self. Because when you are aligned with yourself, then you will feel more peaceful, more, satisfied at the end of the day.
agreed, agreed.
Thank you. Any more questions, guys? Or we can end this conversation today. Okay, I think I don't see any questions, so I think we are good to go. Thank you everyone for joining. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed in this conversation. This is the first time I'm hosting MCD Live. This is like
Is it?
around our 10th session. Nidhi
Okay,
Garg. Now she's running our MCD Live every single day. She comes and talk to people.
great.
Just imagine every single day for 1 hour, she's out there for the globally for anybody to come and join and talk about, Mighty Champions and inner skills and mental health. Okay.
That is really great. Even I enjoyed the conversation a lot. And thank you so much, Dr. Shivam, for inviting me for this.
Okay. So we are all set. Okay. Thank you. I hope you all have a blessed day, positive day, and practice. Don't ever forget to practice kindness, forgiveness, loving. Just use these and empower yourself. Okay. Thank you, guys. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank
Namaste.
you. Bye. Bye-bye.